All right, we are back. Another episode of the Stern Talk. Josh Messiah, Dean Lolkin, and we've got a very special guest. He is a pro pickleball player out of Carmel Valley, San Diego. Ilan, I want to get this right, Wornovitzky.
Correct.
All right, cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's here to promote his t-shirt company, which is called the Duct Tape T-Shirt Company. You want to tell us a little bit about the Duct Tape T-Shirt Company?
It's an amazing t-shirt company.
Yeah.
I love wearing these t-shirts.
Yeah.
Amazon,
Awesome.
place to get them.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. Well, very cool. Thanks for being here.
was like, what? You got the
I
t-shirt?
thought he was going to take it somewhere really.
too.
Yeah,
He didn't.
He tried.
He kept it PG.
Yeah.
good.
Well, listen, we're excited to meet you. Thank you for being here. You were supposed to be here. I feel like Dean should tell this story.
Yeah, he was supposed to be
Keep the energy up.
He was supposed to be one of the very first guests
Yes.
that we were going to have on a Stern Talk.
FOD, Friends of Dean.
Friends of Dean.
Yeah.
And at the last minute, I think maybe like a day or two before, he made up some sort of terrible story
What was the terrible story?
about
Walk us through it.
Mexico and children and kidnappings and murders and sicknesses. And it was unbelievable.
At the time, it made sense. I would want to say that.
I think he was just scared to come on the podcast.
Were you scared to come on?
I was definitely scared.
How does it feel now? Ace is here to comfort you.
That's the problem. Asa wasn't here back then, so I was like, I'm not going to go without him. He's like, he'll be my bodyguard. And
Asa,
then,
how are you
okay.
doing, brother? Good. All right, we got the thumbs up.
Was that the episode when
Please.
I got insulted for like an hour straight because you guys
Yeah.
were attacking
Bingo.
me? Right?
No,
No,
it was.
2 hours straight.
Yeah,
2
that
hours.
was like
That was a long
That was our
episode.
top producing podcast.
I heard you guys like brunch and breakfast, though, right?
Yeah, we're brunchers.
And yet you've never been to my restaurant, so that's
Okay, we're already into plugs. All right, go ahead.
Maybe that's the reason why I didn't show up. I felt
We're not done with you
Did
yet.
you just say the victim card?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
This guy
okay.
loves being
Yeah.
a victim.
So this is like a theme, and listen, obviously we cut up these podcasts into edible bites for people to be able to consume. I think one of the most interesting things about small business owners that I think Dean noticed, and he was sharing with us before we went hot, was that small business owners love playing the victim card, and I find that interesting because generally you would assume it's not true, right? That the employees play the victim card and that the aggressor really is the small business owner. But
not in California.
not in California. Well, tell me more. Tell me more. How does this work?
Wait, so you don't own a t-shirt company?
Not specifically. No.
Not specifically. Okay. Well, tell us why the small business owner loves to play the victim card. I'm not saying you do.
He does.
Okay.
I do.
Dean
indeed.
is saying that you
I
do.
do indeed.
Yeah. But why is that role so amazingly played by small business owners that it's actually thematically a part of, the
I definitely feel California makes it really hard for the employer in a lot of senses that employees just have a ridiculous amount of protection against them for things that make no sense.
Okay, well, give us some examples. What are some
For
things
example,
that?
so right?
Yeah.
You have to give an employee every 4 hours they're working, you have to give them a 10-minute break. If you give them a 10-minute break and they don't take a 10-minute break,
Yeah.
even if you give it to them, they can still sue you for not taking their 10-minute break,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. That's
Right.
no personal accountability at all. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like
So how do you
nuances like that.
so how do you solve that? You're a business owner.
You have to basically keep records of everything, right? So if you're going to give them a 10-minute break, they have to sign off on the break on something you can actually keep, and then sign in right when they come right back off the break. And
Okay.
Make sure everybody's taking a break.
This is like a clock in, clock out type thing.
We actually, we tried the clock in, clock out, and although it's ridiculous, we still use it on a piece of paper. They sign out, they sign in, because the clock in, clock out sometimes gets abused by another person doing it for that employee. So I want the employee to sign in and sign out, which is insane. Nowadays, you can actually do it with a
Yeah, I remember
thumbprint or a lot
20
of
years
things,
ago,
right?
our company had like a
Thumbprint.
it was like a thumbprint thing,
We still do it on. They just sign in and sign out.
the old fashioned way. Okay, all right. So that's
Or
one.
move to Texas, right? Texas doesn't have the same laws.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of states that don't have the same
Oh,
laws.
yeah.
So why do you think California particularly has these types of laws?
California is very liberal, very blue.
Okay.
I'm extremely liberal and blue. There are things that I just don't. I do think you have to have some personal accountability. For example, I'm sure you are all aware that fast food restaurants starting April 1st, the minimum wage went up to $20 an hour.
Okay.
Instead of being $16.30, I think it went up.
So does that affect your business?
Not my. So I have a breakfast restaurant, and we have 7 Jersey Mikes.
Okay.
So it affects the Jersey Mikes we own here in San Diego.
So the Jersey Mikes aren't categorized as a bakery since you make your own bread?
No, because it has to be a bakery that you actually sell your bread just as bread.
Oh, I guess Jersey Mike should start selling bread.
Well, we actually have a button for it that you could actually sell bread. It would be a hard sell.
Yeah.
And the second problem is you just won't get employees, right? Because let's assume I'm paying $16.30, and right next to me we have McDonald's, Burger King, Chick-fil-A, whatever. They're going to pay $20.
Do the tips count towards their...
Not in California.
Oh, interesting.
All right, so explain to us, what is the problem with a $20 minimum wage for fast food workers?
So
And are you hiring? Asking for a friend. Real estate
So
stuff.
it's extremely complicated when you pick winners and losers for anything, right? So I am all for a minimum wage. Everybody should have a decent standard of living, but the governor of California can't come out and say people can't live off of $16.30 if you're a fast food employee, but you can live off of $16.30 if you're a warehouse employee. It's either nobody can live off of $16.30 or everybody can live off $16.30.
Just saying, like, the state is targeting specifically fast food restaurants.
That was clear. I mean, that happened. The push, I think, started 2 years ago. There was going to be a referendum coming this election to actually see if there was an association between fast food employees and unions to see if fast food employees would go up to the $20 an hour. There was going to be a referendum. But part of the issue was, in order for it to qualify for the $20, it had to be a chain that had over 50 stores in the US. And in theory, the corporate entity or the owner of the complete chain would be also responsible for whatever was not paid if they got into an issue. And so there was going to be a referendum. The big companies negotiated with the government, said, if you take that part away, we'll go with the $20 an hour. Okay. So that's when we get the $20 an hour.
Okay. All right. Well, kind of a weird place to start from. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Just out of perspective, in Texas, still the national minimum wage, which is, the federal minimum wage, which is insane. I agree. But it's I think it's $7.40 an hour. But they also have a tipped minimum wage, which is $2.60. Basically, as long as they make the $7.40 out of tips, you pay $2.40.
That's in America? That's
That's
awesome.
in Texas.
That's real America.
Yeah. I mean, I would have thought
I think we should talk a little bit about what makes Ilan so interesting and why I was so interested in having him on as a guest.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the notes. You don't have the notes pulled up. We didn't get the background, the inspiration, the origin story.
Well, I'll tell you why he's here.
Okay.
Because I've known this guy for about a decade, maybe a little bit more, since our daughters were in preschool together. And from very early on, I understood that Ilan had a very unique perspective on small business. He's one of the very few people out there that has tried his hand at probably, a dozen different types of small businesses. And he's owned and operated these businesses over the last decade plus. Everything from locksmiths to perfume stores to food service. I mean, even tax preparation.
Okay.
So, and over the years, I've heard him analyze and talk about looking at various concepts from escape rooms to pizza restaurants.
Love escape room.
And so this guy has such a unique perspective. Most people know something about one business or maybe two types of businesses. Ilan has examined every business under the sun. And like a small business owner, he has opinions about everything, very strong ones. So I'm so excited to hear super strong opinions about it.
Women love men with strong opinions.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's his wife loves that about it.
Yeah.
Lucky woman.
Well, let's get into it. Let's go back to the origin story.
Okay,
Give us like a little, like from 10,000 feet, an understanding of your background, where you came from, how you got to San Diego, and how you became this sort of holistic, sort of omniscient, purveyor.
my father's main business. I'm from Mexico City.
Okay.
My father's main business in Mexico City, he sells heavy machinery to the power industry, so for power generation, mostly in Mexico. Not clean energy. They're getting cleaner, but for oil and gas refineries, basically, and power generation. And we represent usually European companies that sell the spare parts in Mexico. And when I joined my dad with that business, well, the problem with that business in particular, it's been a really good business for our family, but in Mexico, up till lately, all of the power generation is government owned. And with government owned, it varies drastically year to year, depending on the budget, depending on the president. And it's usually very backdated. So it's not backdated, back-ended. So it'll be towards the end of the year. They try to save their budget till the last moment of the year, just in case they have a power outage. And if they don't, then they'll have all the spare parts they need to make them better. So when I joined my dad in that business, I was bored to tears. There's not much to do a lot of the year because you go see a lot of the power plants, but they won't have the money released till the end of the year. So I had a lot of spare time, and that was just driving me insane. And so I opened back then I decided I was going to try to import other stuff with some friends from college. And we opened a company that imported novelty candy to Mexico. And we started getting licenses like Warner Brothers, DC Comics, et cetera, for the like candy wrappers, or like it had like a little toy fan with candy inside. And we started selling those. And that started taking a little of my time when I had not much to do. After that, a friend of mine kept running that, and then we decided to venture into construction company.
Logical shift. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
From novelty candies branded by DC to construction. All right.
General contracting or something specific?
Middle income housing.
Okay.
Our first experience in Mexico was terrible, awful. We bought a piece of land in Mexico City to build an apartment building that was going to have, well, here you would call it condo, right? If it's not for rent, it's condos.
Right.
Okay, so condo building. It was it was supposed to have 16 condos, and they told us you can probably get it permitted to 24 condos. When we went to go and see if we could get it permitted to 24 condos, they asked us for a contribution of $1 million.
US?
Indeed.
Oh, okay.
And when we said that, it's a small building, that makes no sense. We're just not going to make any money. Their answer was, you're not ready to build in Mexico City. So that only delayed our licenses probably 3.5 years. Huh. Problematic. Then we had an issue with a union as well. We were not really versed in what the unionization of building workers in Mexico was. So we did not create a white union. The biggest union came over to our apartment building and said, you want to unionize with us? So we went to a lawyer, said, what should we do? And he said, just create a white union, and that's all you need to do.
Right.
Created a white union. Maybe a week later, a school bus with maybe 60 people with chains, bats, comes over to our construction site. They come down and they call up all of our construction workers and say, okay, starting tomorrow, if we don't get paid, we're going to come and beat you up every day. Evidently, our construction workers did not show up the following day. We took him to court. We won. After we just left court, they said, I don't really give a shit if you won or not.
Yeah.
We're still going to beat them up. So that didn't really work as well as we thought. We had to basically negotiate with them. It was not a pleasant negotiation. There was a gun involved. It was not nice, but eventually we unionized with them. We finished the building. It was a horrible business. It took us maybe 6 years to finish it, and basically we got probably a 4 or 5% return on investment in a 6-year period.
Yeah.
Not
Wow.
good.
No. Okay. That the lesson about white union is kind of like esoteric, but interestingly enough, we do have a white union in Mexico. We do in Mexico.
Yeah, it's insane. So,
No one knows what that is.
But it's esoteric. We'll leave it at that.
okay,
But yeah.
the white union is basically you create your own union for your own people, and then basically you're unionized, right?
It's to save on taxes.
What's that?
The white union. For companies to save on taxes.
I would say there's a lot of purposes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of purposes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
As
then,
he just demonstrated, right?
so then we moved to start building in big cities that were around Mexico City, 30, 40 minutes away, like Pachuca. And there we had more experience, obviously. So part of I'm partners with all of my family. Part of our issues has always been, we always think, how hard can it be? And evidently, sometimes it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, you have to go through a learning curve that if you would have gotten somebody involved in that business, you probably would have saved a lot of money,
just
right?
a fast question. So you go from selling candy, right, and then you go into some residential development for this condo tower, and then you're like, well, that took 6 years, and I got a 5% rate of return on my money. Logically, I should keep doing this. Like, walk us through the calculus in your brain where it's like, you're talking to your family like, wow, that took 6 years. And they're like, yeah, and we made 5% on our money. And they're like, yeah, and we had to go to court. We paid lawyers and there was guns involved. And they're like, we should do this again. Like, walk us through like how you help me sort of.
And when you say family, I just want to be clear. All of these years you've been working together with your two brothers. You have a younger brother and an older brother.
Correct.
As well as your dad.
My dad and my uncle, my father's brother. So when I was in Mexico, it was just me, my father, and my uncle. When I came over, my
What
brothers
year
got
was that?
involved. 2010.
But you're stealing my question.
That is true.
Stop stealing. Yeah, stop stealing and cheating like you do in pickleball. But instead, help me to understand. You
That's
put up this condo
right.
building. You get a terribly small rate of return. There's guns involved. There's people you have to pay off. There's violence. There's threats of violence. There's lawyers you have to pay. And then you go back to your family like, hey, we should do this again. So explain to me the mental calculus and why you thought it was smart to continue down that road.
Super fair question. I would say the answer is, if you're going to pretend to know everything about something, which obviously proved to be completely wrong,
Yeah.
and you already went to a 6-year learning curve, you might as well use the learning curve you already used. Learned to get that awful 4%. Now we come with a new perspective. So we go to Pachuca. The first thing we go, before we even buy the land, we go to the government. We say, okay, can we donate some...
Now we're talking.
Okay, so we donated some actually there we donated streets, we donated a park, and with that we got the permits 2 months later.
Makes sense. Yeah.
We found what the biggest union was. We unionized with them at the beginning. Completely different story.
Yeah.
And there we're in our third project in Pachuca. We've built about 400 homes already.
Yeah.
And so that's been really, really good for us.
Okay. Interesting. So you learned a hard lesson, right? And then you continued through the journey. I think for small business owners out there that are listening to this episode, I think one of the things that I think small business owners are unique in is that, and I'll liken this to like working out, which obviously you do on a daily basis, but
All muscle.
but you know, in order to get stronger, you have to get weaker first, right? Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely.
Right. So you start working out and you feel pain, right? You have discomfort, right? You can't sleep, right? And as you continue doing it, you push through this barrier, and eventually, instead of being weaker, you get stronger. I think for
Are
a
you
lot
asking him if he knows?
no.
Or like a rhetorical,
Yeah.
rhetorical question.
Sorry. But in any event, right? Like the idea is, you know, in 9 to 5, you know, like employment, right? It's mediocrity, right? You never have to grow stronger. You never have to grow faster, right? All you have to do is just maintain. And I think with business owners, they're used to, right, having to get weaker in order to get stronger. I think that's the tale, right? I was like sort of, you know, tongue in cheek criticizing you about, well, you know, 6-year project, violence, guns, threats, lawyers. Why would you go through it again? You're like, because we figured it out, right? And how many years later are you like, that was what, 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
Almost 20 years ago.
Almost 20 years ago. And are you still developing in Mexico?
Yes.
Yeah. So the lesson was learned, right? So the lesson is, right, and the lesson should be delivered by you, right? Relate it back to business owners in America, right? Because you started out talking about the minimum wage. Federal minimum wage being small, California raising the minimum wage for California, right? The state version, how it disproportionately affects small business owners respective to the food service industry, right?
Right.
But you're learning something, and obviously you're continuing in that industry, right?
Correct.
So despite it all, right, the unfair bias and attention, right, that Governor Newsom's giving to food service businesses, specifically small ones, right? It's hard to compete, but yet you still compete, right?
Correct.
Why do you still compete?
I mean, you still compete because at least it'll become expensive for. The problem with that is mostly the customers will end up paying that increase at some point.
Increased food costs.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you raise prices,
But you can't raise them at the same. You'll struggle for a bit. You can't raise them at the same 20% that you or 25% that your minimum wage was increased, right?
So
But eventually you'll get
so
there.
let me understand, Dean, and I need your help, right? Because inflation, right? Newsom's causing, right, unfair inflation as it relates to like the labor, to the wage, right? To the wage and hour issue for fast food employees. So he's creating inflation, but he thinks he's combating inflation, right? But then from the business owner perspective, they're just going to raise all their costs, right? To compete with having to have this disproportionately large, employee base that is always threatening to leave and go somewhere else where they'll make more money, as you said.
I mean, Newsom, right, and politicians in general live in a fantasy world
Okay.
where they
Break
believe,
it down, because I
right?
want to understand that.
Yeah, the fantasy world is that if I increase the minimum wage for lower and middle class employees,
Okay.
it's a free lunch, right? Their standard of living is going to go up. And who am I harming? Well, I'm going to harm the big bad business owner. But the reality is that the big bad business owner, especially a small business owner, can't raise prices like Ilan just described at the same rate that these wages are being raised. And so what's happening is that you're simply squeezing their margins. And so the people who are the employer are suffering because now the business isn't making enough profits. Mm-hmm. And so you've got your employees that might feel a little bit happier because they're able to pay their bills, but their employer isn't thriving. And so that means that there will be no more expansion opportunities for those locations. Right. That means there will be no more management opportunities for these people. So it trickles down in a negative way to those employees that feel like, gosh, I got a little bit more per hour.
So who, to kind of cap this off, who wins, right? The the legislators in Sacramento are pushing the governor to do something, right? He enacts this law, or he signs off, I should say, right, on this piece of legislation to increase the minimum wage as it relates to food service employees, right? And obviously there's some exemptions for his friends, right, as we saw. But how does it end? Because it seems like a cat chasing its tail.
Yeah, it's silly. I mean, who wins? It's a great question.
There's got to be winners and losers,
right? I mean, if you're increasing people's wages, guess what? They're going to pay more taxes. And when they pay more taxes, right, those taxes go into the coffers of the government. So these politicians who are spending way too much money every year, right, and running deficits, can keep doing that.
Right.
So for them, it seems like a great idea. Again, more taxes for the politicians.
Why? Because the sale on the house?
More property tax, right? More tax on the sale or capital gains or income.
Yeah.
But Ilan is in a really interesting place. So Ilan, you have two sort of food service concepts, right? One is subject to this rule and one is not.
What are the restaurants?
So your workers should be moving from one place to the other to get that $20. I think your pancake employees should be leaving and going to work at Jersey Mike's.
So we have a breakfast concept called Slap Your Jacks in North Park. Obviously, sit-down restaurants, the waiters make a substantial amount on tips. So,
what does substantial mean? Walk us through that.
It definitely varies from restaurant to restaurant, but I can say it at least doubles their hourly pay. At least.
So walk us through this, because I think this will make like an interesting anecdote. I want to work I want to work at Flap Your Jacks. You're like, okay, William, you seem like you're a smart enough guy. I
didn't say that, but
we'll have you be a waiter. I'm going to pay you $20 an hour.
No. So for a waiter, I would pay the state minimum, which would be the $16.30.
Okay. First of all, I'm out. I want $20 an hour. Right. That's what the guy
just told you he's going to double your wage.
I don't care. I want my baseline. I'm an experienced waiter. Pay me my $20.
I would say no.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Wow. Okay. This is
I'm going to Jersey Mike's.
All right. So I'm 16 an hour. And you're saying that with tips, I can now make $32 an hour.
At least, yes.
Okay. Well, let's say I make $50 an hour. How many hours do I get to work at Flap Your Jacks that's probably only busy for half the day, right?
That actually for us, it's been very beneficial. It might be problematic to some people, but a lot of people who work as waiters and busters, etc., they're not planning on making a career off of being waiters or busters for the rest of their lives.
Hold on a second. They're not planning? They're not planning? Okay, because I've sat in a lot of Ubers before, right? And you always want to be like, hey, how long you been driving for Uber? And they're like, oh, this is just like a temporary thing. I'm like, oh, how long has it been? They're like, 17 years.
Okay.
Right?
I would say the rotation would clearly say they are not doing this for a long period of time.
Okay.
Different in the kitchen. Kitchen staff usually are planning to be kitchen staff.
Okay.
So do they get paid more?
They do get paid more.
How much more?
It varies again depending on their expertise, but it goes up to about $30. Anywhere from
now we're talking. Do the people in the kitchen also get a piece of the tips?
That's a complicated question.
Yeah.
I would say yes, but
you can tell me the truth.
No.
Yeah. Tell me the truth later.
It doesn't happen everywhere.
Yeah.
The problem is the tipping rules in California are tough.
Tipping rules or tipping laws?
Tipping laws, sorry.
Okay, no.
Yeah, fair enough. So for example, a hostess cannot get any part of the tips. It's illegal for a hostess to get tips.
Really?
Yes.
Why is that?
You have to be in chain with food service throughout the chain of service whenever they order to getting the food.
Wow. Okay.
So a manager, assuming you pool tips, pooling tips would mean obviously everybody pulls them in and then you distribute them depending on the hours worked. If you're pooling tips, a manager cannot get any part of the tips. You're not allowed to tip managers unless the manager is actually being a waiter on a table. Then he'll be able to keep his tips as a waiter. Otherwise, you cannot. So the kitchen staff does get a percentage of the tips, but it's a much smaller percentage of the tips.
Do you determine that?
We do not. Yeah, we have a policy on how we're going to work that out. And basically, we don't pull tips because waiters don't like to pull tips. It makes some sense. If you assume you give a better service than your fellow waiter.
All right. Well, we belabored that point, right? I think we now understand sort of the mechanics of the tipping culture as it relates to the laws in California. Let's get back to the, because I derailed the story because I wanted to know about like decreasing margins and stuff like that as it relates to construction, rehab industry and so on and so forth. But let's get back to the origin story. So we're in Mexico. We've learned what to do, what not to do as it relates to working with the government, getting permits, as it relates to getting, cozying up with unions and not trying to do your white union, donating parks and donating streets and things of that nature. So walk us through what's next and go slowly because I'm interested to understand.
So by then my older brother moved to New York. He was working in the finance industry. He did an MBA there. He was working in the finance industry. And eventually we had all decided we were going to move to San Diego. My parents bought a condo here since I was a kid. So it was an easy place for everyone to just reconvene. I moved to San Diego in 2010. Both my brothers were already here.
And did you leave the construction, like the development?
And so the theory was I was going to be in Mexico 1 week a month. My dad was going to be in Mexico 1 week a month. My uncle was going to be in Mexico 1 week a month.
Okay. All right. So equally sharing the responsibility.
My dad and my uncle decided not to move, so they are still in Mexico.
Okay. Good. They're there all weeks of the month.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I go there at least 1 week a month. Usually now my older brother Mark goes with me. He is in a partner in everything we do as well. Mm-hmm. And so when we moved to San Diego, we had a company that was flipping houses actually.
Interesting. Wow, that's.
But then obviously after the downturn in the real estate in 2008, 2007, we abandoned that. Then we bought a company that sold laptop batteries online.
Okay.
That we closed in 2017 or 2016. Mm-hmm. That did really well, but eventually laptops got so cheap that it was just people weren't really buying extra batteries when their battery ran out, right?
Yeah.
We bought some perfume stores down at the border in Las Americas Mall. That did really well. We were selling also perfumes online. With COVID and not having people cross over, we shut those down. We stopped selling online. It doesn't make a lot of sense anymore. The margins aren't there.
What is the margin on a bottle of perfume? I've always, it's like you walk into those stores in the mall.
Insane. If you're talking like a Fashion Valley, like a Sephora, I would say at minimum 100%.
It's just alcohol, right?
It's insane. It's at minimum for them would be 100%. For us, we were at an outlet store, so we sold them way cheaper. But it varies. Like most of the perfumes or colognes owned by artists, like if you're getting the Britney Spears or you probably at least triple the price, even in an outlet store. So a Sephora would probably 6 times, 7 times the price.
But at the store at the border where they're selling perfumes, I assume you pay commission to the salespeople, right?
We do.
Okay. Because that's a very aggressive sale, right?
And a lot of people would just buy and probably sell them over in Mexico. They would buy more than one. So we
interesting.
Got some tourism, but there was a customs bridge built that went practically into Las Americas outlet. So a lot of people would just come over. And so when COVID hit, that the border was closed for about a year.
Yeah, the business just died.
Died.
Yeah.
And And in internet, the margins aren't there. You can't.
And why is that business good at the mall but not good online?
Because the pricing for the mall is very similar to the pricing for internet. And although I do understand that you're paying rent in the mall, and for internet you're paying a much lower rent because you have a warehouse wherever it is.
Right.
The shipping is a big part of it, and the Amazon commission is huge because you sell much more through Amazon than through your own website. Or if you're doing pay-per-click, it's very expensive to do pay-per-click for
I feel like
perfumes.
if I was going to sell a perfume, knowing what I know now about digital marketing, I would crush. Can I tell you my pitch?
Go.
You let me know if
Go
you want to
ahead.
invest. So you give me a warehouse full of perfumes. I look at the top TikTok, Instagram personalities that hawk fragrance, makeup, that type of stuff. Girls that'll do their makeup online and show it to people that are getting they're getting a lot of views and stuff like that. And that would just give them 50% of the margin, right? So you'd give them an affiliate code, they'd push it, right? And we just have them, I don't know, I'd get 1,000 influencers worldwide. Why wouldn't that work?
Are you talking for your own brand of perfume? Or
No,
for
just
selling general perfume?
any perfume. Because what I do is I would look at what the flavor of the month is. So I'd go to my distributor. I'd say, all right, what's the perfume, man and women, or male and female, that I can get the best deal on? And he'd say, okay, it's XYZ perfume. It's Justin Timberlake perfume.
The problem with that is perfume is pretty like commoditized, right? So you can buy the exact same perfume in Target as in Price Club, as in wherever they have like the sales, as in Sephora or whatever, right?
He does have all the answers.
So
I need to create a bespoke perfume.
Right.
Okay.
Because when you go to,
now we're talking.
When you go to that influencer, he'll be like, okay, yeah, buy this from Stern Perfumes.
Boom. I've got an idea now. I go to the influencers and I say, hey, I'm Estee Lauder, right? Ish. I'll make you your own perfume.
That could
You
definitely
pitch
work.
it.
That could definitely work.
So why don't we do it?
And they do.
Oh, they do. Look
They
at
do a
this
lot
guy.
of, yeah.
Look at this guy. Please, camera. I don't know what camera he's supposed to turn to. 7 or 6. There's no number on that camera. 6?
That's 6.
Dean, why do you know all this? Why are you so good with TikTok Shop?
He buys those perfumes.
I am a huge TikToker.
I have a question as it relates to Flap Your Jacks, because I like restaurants that are scalable. I feel like you've tapped into something interesting. Do you want to explain the concept and then I can ask my question?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So-
okay. Because it's unique.
It is.
It's very unique.
It is. So
Yeah.
we decided that you want more than just lunch or breakfast or brunch. You want an experience as well, right? So
Like Benihana.
there you go.
Yeah, like Benihana.
So you have a small griddle on the table, and besides having like a full menu, which I particularly think is amazing,
Yeah.
we also have
Look at this guy. This guy never turned down a calorie in his life.
we also have
So good at pickleball.
Is really?
No,
I
probably
am
cheats.
amazing. I am amazing. Well, it depends compared to who
He
you play.
cheats. He
does
cheats. He
does
absolutely
cheat.
cheats.
We do well when we're together because he cheats, although he doesn't
I
play
took
well.
you.
But regardless,
Stop and start. Go through it again because I was rude. I interrupted.
no worries. So
So you're giving them an experience. They have a small griddle in front of them.
besides everything you can get in the kitchen, we also have these squeeze bottles with 4 or 5 flavors of batter mix that you basically press like a ketchup bottle, basically, and you can do different designs, pictures, whatever, with the different batters: banana batter, chocolate batter.
And do you
toppings.
give them forms also? So when they pour it, it comes out.
No. You have to be creative by yourself.
Can't get a heart. Can't get a Mickey shape. Can't. No.
No.
Okay.
Right, but it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. So that makes it definitely very entertaining.
Yeah.
A lot
Do
of
people like the batter?
they love it.
Okay. So you obviously at the end the waiter comes over and says, "Hope you had a great meal. What I want to let you know is that the utensils that you use, as well as the forms for Mickey and all that, you can buy. These are what we have to offer, as well as we also sell the batters. Which ones would you like? What can I
We do not sell the batters.
Got it. All right, we're getting somewhere. Why?
We do not sell the batters because it's harder than you would think. So you've already
hard to sell,
hard to keep, right?
hard to keep.
When you're making pancakes,
got it. So you sell
our batters are already made, right?
but you sell the dry mix.
So we don't sell the dry mix.
Of course not. Okay. And why do you sell the dry mix?
Because we don't have we make everything fresh every day. So our banana bread butter has fresh bananas. So I don't have a dry mix that has fresh bananas into the basically mixed into the
I could wreak havoc in your business. I would come in there for 5 hours and I would expose to you all the missed opportunities.
In order for us to be doing that in a different place, to add all the ingredients so you can actually do it at home, and basically it would keep.
Do you have a warehouse where you're making all this stuff, or are you actually making it on site?
We make it on site.
Because that's what we need to change. We need a warehouse. We need a warehouse where we can start mixing this stuff. And then we need some distribution through, I would argue that we need to sell this at local coffee chains, right?
I know a guy who has one.
Yeah. I mean, we could sell this at Everbowl. We could sell this at Better Buzz. We could sell this at numerous San Diego-based coffee shops, right? Have a little piece of space on the wall. I think we could sell this at Target. I think the dry batters.
Costco.
Yeah. Have you thought about the Costco part?
We have not, because again, we would need to first create those recipes to be dry and well stored for, and that's a whole new business.
Yeah.
And evidently, we do plan on doing that at some point.
Because I think if it tastes good, I think if it tastes good, I don't like labor, but I like scale. So if the pancakes taste good, pancakes, schmancakes, I want to put it breads, muffins, all types of baked goods. I want to put them in Sprouts, and I want a little display that says local Mexican-owned business, right? Support it. Boom. And I have all the different things, and I want it front and center. So when you walk into Sprouts, you got to walk by it.
Well, he's never been to your restaurant, but he's already started a business.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I would recommend you going to our restaurant first.
Let's do it right now.
But when anyone says, come to my thing, and I say, is it south of the 56? I learned it from Dean.
No, Ilan, when he first opened the restaurant, he asked me, he said, are you going to come? And I was like, no, I'm not. It's too far away. I can't. And I also don't like breakfast. So.
Well, interestingly enough.
Specifically pancakes.
Well, hold on to that, because I think he's onto something with this concept. I think this would crush in Las Vegas.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think that's the next market if you're looking for an investor. Also, I would just like to say this and put this out there. I hope Siegel's watching, right? Dean, you know where I'm going with this.
Siegel's Bagel Mania. We are ready for you here in San Diego. Let's do this.
We will invest in that business.
Ilan Wornovitzky.
Yeah.
Mikey G.
Yeah.
Dean and Billy.
RMD.
We're ready to go.
Let's buy the rights to Siegel Bagel Mania.
Have you been to this place in Las Vegas?
I was there once, yeah.
Yeah. Let's buy the rights.
My favorite restaurant.
Really?
Oh, I love that place.
Listen, kosher style deli plus bakery. Genius.
Zero competition in San Diego.
None. There is none. There's one. There's DZ Aiken's. No one goes there.
Milton's awful.
And then there's Milton's in Del Mar.
Horrible.
Yeah. So in any event, all right. Let's get back to the origin story.
But listen, the good news is that he's got 1 Flap Your Jacks, but 7 Jersey Mikes.
Well, hold on. You're tempting me to go to the Jersey Mikes. We'll analyze and attack that in a minute. But how do you even get the inspiration, right, to start a pancake restaurant, let alone a pancake restaurant that is
south of the 50?
No, listen, no one's going to understand that, right? This is like a nationwide thing, but
everyone knows the difference between north and south.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, but how do you get this idea, right? Because this idea doesn't exist in Mexico, does it?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, pancakes in Mexico, I mean, everybody eats pancakes in Mexico, but they're not as big as they are here, right?
Right, but I mean, not the pancake aspect, right? But more along the lines of like, trying to think of the right word, but where you sort of...
If you make your own pancakes.
Yeah, it's like make your own. So it's got that element of like Benihana or like Korean barbecue, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. It basically, we wanted also an experiential sort of thing in the restaurant. Now, I would definitely want you to go down there, and I would bet you would not find better Benedicts or better chilaquiles than our chilaquiles or Benedicts there.
Okay.
We have really good reviews. We've done really well, but opening it in San Diego was such a problematic thing that I would definitely not want to open another one, probably in California in the short run.
Okay.
I would open it somewhere else.
You
We've
didn't
been
answer
to Vegas. We've
Yeah.
been to Houston.
But hold on, you didn't even answer my question.
What was your question?
This is like what do you call it? Like the White House press room or whatever. They ask what's her name a question. She like goes into
A very interesting question.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that.
Glad you asked that.
So I asked you, like, you have this pancake concept that's experiential, to use your
Yes.
the way you worded it. But where does that come from? It doesn't exist in Mexico, right? Obviously, pancakes do.
Who came up with this stupid idea?
Yeah.
Tell us.
Yeah.
Okay. So
He responds to force. This is like the Putin thing. Yeah.
we've obviously seen like the grill your own steak, which we were not happy of. You remember the one in downtown? I think it was called
Yes.
Club or something.
Strip Club.
Yeah. Yeah.
You never. Sorry, down.
It existed for a long time.
I like other kinds of strip clubs. I don't.
yeah. So
Keep it kosher. The kid's right there.
He knows.
Good guy. That's where he met Marlene, actually. Not your Marlene. Albert Preciado's Marlene. Yeah.
So we like that concept in general. We saw something similar in Portland called Lappy Cakes, I believe it's called.
Okay, so you stole the idea. Okay,
There you
great.
go.
All right.
Nothing good comes from Portland.
No.
Let's be clear.
There you
about
go. It's a
Remember this-
much better
remember the-
concept.
You remember.
that. Oh yeah.
You remember. Was that Portland?
Oh yeah.
The Magic Sex?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, moving along. Anyway. So you stole the concept.
There
I
you
got it.
go.
And you brought it to San Diego.
There you go.
What did it cost? Because obviously somebody's got to develop a menu. Somebody's got to, create the build out. Architects involved. I remember when they opened up Javier's in San Diego. Your friend was a part of it. It was the build out was 10 million?
13.
$13 million for, I don't know how many people, maybe it seats 400 or something like that.
In UTC?
Yeah. Walk us through how you put the building blocks together, right? You're a construction guy, perfumes, dos por cinco, right? Like selling at the border, like how do you go grabadores, perfumes, cables, how do you go from that to, I think I'll steal an idea for flapjacks from Portland, Oregon. How do you put the building blocks together?
Okay, so we like the idea. We're not fans of the menu over there, so we decided not to. If not, we would have probably asked if they franchised or something. Right?
Perfect. Got it. So it
We
came
like
from a
more-
bad
more the
experience.
concept that, yeah.
So I think that's super interesting, right? As a small business owner, right? You either work within a organization and you're like, I can do this better myself. And then they start their own company, right? And then there's also instances where it's like, I went to this restaurant or I had this experience. I think I can do it better. That's what you did.
That's exactly
For some
what
odd
we did,
reason,
yes.
you were in Portland, Oregon. Somebody recommended a restaurant or happenstance you went there. You're like, this is a great concept, but the food sucks, right?
Is limited operating hours part of the decision-making process?
Yes.
It's interesting. The Original Pancake House is another one, right?
Breakfast Republic. I mean, these places function only until like 2 or 3 p.m.
Yeah.
And so labor costs are contained.
Yeah. You still have to pay for a lease, which I would argue, as an aside, I know it's taking like the listeners in a different direction. I would do something with that
Run a
space.
strip club the rest of the time.
If you can, it's amazing, but
I wouldn't run a strip club. You know what I would do is I'd start baking things and get that out. I'd buy some trucks and get some distribution, and I'd get that stuff out for the second half of the day, right? So I'd have any place where I'd run a restaurant, the back half, right? You took me to a great coffee house in Esco. Front of the house, they're selling coffee, right? And other high margin items, right? Back of the house are,
Baked goods, muffins, croissants.
that they're baking on premise. They're also what are you calling their own coffee beans, right? What's the word I'm looking for?
roasting?
Roasting. So they've got a roastery, if that's a word. They're roasting the coffee beans, and then they've got the equipment to bag it up in the back. And that's what I would do. I think I look at businesses, right? Because I've seen over 20 years of being, right, like the largest privately held, right, small business lender in America. I look at all these businesses and I look at what they do and how they operate, and I'm always poking holes and asking questions. If I'm going to operate a business like, I wouldn't say Flap Your Jacks, but just in general, as it relates to businesses where there's like, we're only open from this time to this time, I'm looking at other ways, right, of leveraging that space, not necessarily the same labor, because I don't need to keep people there all day. I'd rather bring in labor for a short amount of time, right? I think it creates competition within the labor force. Like, sorry, we can only get you 4 hours today, but you know, maybe in 2 months, if you keep working hard, we'll try to get you 8 hours, right? Something like that. I like creating competition between people, but that's what I would do with the back half of my restaurant, assuming that I had a good menu.
I would not probably recommend that idea. I understand what you're saying.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
Because usually for a restaurant, you are paying premium lease. You want a really good location. So you're going to have a bigger space in the back for you to create something in the afternoon, get something in a warehouse district and do that in the afternoon. It makes no sense for you to be paying premium lease to actually do something that's not really open to the public. And then you can sell it in your restaurant if you want in the afternoon.
Yeah,
sure.
Okay.
But it makes no sense to be paying premium lease for something like that.
So you have a restaurant that operates from, let's say, you know, the workers are getting there at 6, they're prepping the batters and all that kind of stuff.
We close at 3.
And then you close at 3. And so for the back half of the day, right, I don't know, probably takes 3 hours to clean up, something like that.
No, less than that. But so let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Name a restaurant that you consider. Do you go out for breakfast at all?
I do.
Okay. Name a restaurant.
As a Jew, that's my favorite meal.
There you go.
Because you never know if you're going to live for the rest of the day.
I completely agree, but he's an awful Jew and he doesn't go to breakfast apparently.
Whoa. I will go to Siegel's Bagel Mania every time
You
I'm in Las
said you
Vegas.
don't like breakfast, you don't go out to breakfast. Don't try
do
to.
like Bagel Mania.
When he's in a good mood,
Testify.
and he's at the Wynn Tower Suites, of course, and he's got that big room. Thanks for the upgrade. Shout out to the Wynn. We will walk down and we will go to Siegel's Bagel Mania. It's an experience.
I have a soft spot for bagels with lox and eggs,
Capers.
capers.
Do you have food like
You're a
that?
disgrace.
Jeez. Happy Passover, everyone.
Get rid of the hummus. Just talking about hummus gets me all hot and bothered. But in any event, so that's a bad idea, right?
All right, so I was asking you, so you like breakfast. Name a breakfast place that is also full for lunch and dinner.
Okay, hold on.
People don't like that.
Dude, in California specifically?
Sure. Or just everywhere, anywhere.
Katz's Deli. I'm
Katz's-
full.
Which one?
Is it? Can I drop a mic? Katz's Deli. They're busy all day, even into the night, in New York.
Dude, but deli, okay, no. First of all, delis, you could have said the same thing 10 years ago about Stage or Carnegie.
Yeah.
Look at them now.
Yeah.
Nowhere to
Those
be
were
found.
dirty restaurants, by the way, in Los Angeles.
But
Those are-
what I'm trying to say is most people try to, once you peg a restaurant as this is a breakfast place, it's really hard for them to be, even if you had great food, for them to be like, oh, you know what? They also have great dinner. Let's try that in dinner.
Yeah.
And the ones that have tried or done that are usually more like an IHOP, a Denny's. So yes, if I could get people all through the day, I would love to have that happen.
Okay.
It's just very hard.
Okay, so you've answered that question fairly. I agree. You win. Small business owners love to win. They love to argue, but more than they like arguing, they love winning.
If you would like
Now,
winning at
hotel restaurants
pickleball,
don't have this issue.
What's that?
Hotel restaurants don't have this
Captive
problem.
audience.
Right? They have a
Captive
captive
audience.
audience, so
Captive
maybe
audience.
that's an unfair comparison.
Captive audience como
if
sus
you
niños.
like winning,
Porque
play
sí.
pickleball with Mr. Lucan, please.
Wow, he almost got your name right. So offensive.
Yeah, well,
Okay, listen, I have another question.
yes, sir.
How long have you operated this restaurant?
We had the fantastic luck of opening 2 weeks prior to pandemic hitting.
Oh, sounds like Mikey G.
So we opened
Sounds like
and
my
closed
angels,
like
Huntress
7
and
times.
Do they play together? Do you guys play pickleball or hang out? Do they know each other?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys should.
So
just met.
Ilan just met Mikey G.
Okay.
He played poker with us for the first time.
How was that?
That was awesome. We had
Yeah.
a great experience.
Mikey G loves taking new people. Do you play poker? Like,
I play poker.
oh, okay. So he didn't take your money.
Is that why
No,
we didn't get invited
so-
this time?
That's another small business owner quality. So Ilan likes playing poker because he likes berating everyone at the table.
Dean is the kiss of death. If he sits next to you,
Wait, in business or just?
anything.
Oh, it's a mala suerte.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like you remember the cartoons with the little
the halo?
cloud? No,
Oh,
the little cloud raining on top of you? That's Dean.
Oh, he's like
You somehow
you're like
partnered with
you're
him,
like
right?
Eeyore. Eeyore, the guy who's always had.
Exactly.
Everybody forgot
Remember, we're
about
back
my birthday.
to the lack of accountability, blame, victimhood, right?
I was going to say, I like
prototypical small business owner.
I like him too.
pretty happy all the time.
I like him too. He's just the kiss of death. He brings bad luck.
I've had good luck with Dean. So
No,
far.
I would argue.
You gonna leave me hanging? What the?
Listen, I would argue after being Dean's friend since 1989 that instead of saying that he's the kiss of death, I would just say he's overly conservative. So like, you know, you want to critique people. Really, that's the only thing I could ever pick on him for. And I think as time has elapsed and he's gotten older and realized, I think, his own mortality, he's become less risk averse. But I wouldn't say he's the kiss of death. I would say I'm more of the kiss of death.
If
You need a dumb idea.
If we're talking about pickleball, he's the kiss of death.
I was
This guy's
playing poker, okay?
Yeah.
I did not win a hand. Dean is the first or the second one to lose out. He leaves. I start winning. When he comes back, he's like, wow, I can't believe it. You were almost gone and look at you now.
Yeah.
He sits back down right next to me. I did not win a hand ever again.
Oh,
And I was the next one out.
Okay, so this
Kiss
is
of death.
so this is interesting. And that brings me to my next point, which is why business owners can't accept any responsibility for their actions and just blame other people.
Yeah, and also we could have your brothers here probably to maybe give us some first-hand accounts of this lack of accountability and responsibility. What is it like working with family? Tell us.
For them, it has to be amazing. For me, it's hard. I am a great person.
But you'd rather work with. He didn't even answer the question about his
That's
restaurant.
pretty good.
He's like, you took me on this trip through like Disneyland or the
In flag football, we call this the swim move.
swim move.
Yeah, where they do one of these.
I'm so lost with what my question. I was asking him like, how long have you been operating this pancake restaurant?
we opened in
Pandemic.
2019.
Yeah,
Or 20. When did pandemic hit? 2020.
March 2020.
So yeah, we opened February 2020.
Okay, so you opened and then obviously closed.
Closed, open, closed.
Closed, open, closed, open, closed, open. Were you serving people outside?
Very hard.
Did you do takeaway?
So no,
Did you start selling batter?
no.
Okay. I'm noticing a common theme, which is once you stop talking, it implies that you either haven't thought of the idea or you're wrong.
No. You ready?
Okay,
Ready?
yeah. All right, go. Hit me with it. Hit me with it.
California doesn't let you have grills outside.
Really?
As ridiculous as that sounds.
So let me counter that point.
you can grill on a beach. I understand. It's a different thing.
On Convoy,
How do the Koreans do it?
yeah, there's a Zion Market, and adjacent to Zion Market is a place called Taeguki, which is like Korean flag. And their griddles for cooking Korean barbecue are outside on the patio.
I would love for you to explain how to do that.
Yeah.
But I'll explain. I'll give you some examples.
You know how they did it?
Yes.
Do you want to know?
Yes.
They donated a street. They donated a park.
There you go.
They found the right union.
The problem here, the parks and streets are very expensive. So we decided to go.
Okay.
So for example, we had to put a hood on top of every table. That makes no sense. None whatsoever. Pancakes don't smoke.
Do you think we could have
grease.
invested in a food truck and just park the food truck in front of the restaurant
To do what?
to just take pancake orders and just give them their pancakes?
But people want to make their own pancakes. So as stupid as this sounds,
This is what the Egyptians told us.
of pancakes.
Yeah, this is what the Egyptians told us in Egypt. They're like, no. People want to make their own pyramids. We're like, what? No, we don't want. We just want a pyramid.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Saturdays and Sundays, we sometimes have a 2-hour wait list.
Do you guys use Yelp check-in?
We do.
Okay. And how does that work for you?
It works well. You'll always have people complaining that they assume that it was a reservation. Although it's clear for everyone it should not be a reservation.
Do you have
And
an
it
app?
says, we do.
Okay. And with the app, are they earning points?
No.
And with the app, can they like get a
Oh,
reservation?
no, we don't have an app for our... No, you do it through Yelp. We don't have an app for our store.
Okay. Gotcha. I understand. Yeah.
You're
All
welcome.
the answers.
You're welcome.
Lienchka, как дела?
You're welcome. But
Yeah,
we
yeah.
will have an app.
It would cost $1,000 to create an app,
I
right?
completely agree.
They create points, right? Every time they make, they buy something, they're making, they're getting points to their account. And you have different levels. You've got bronze, silver, gold,
I have a membership.
platinum.
Actually,
I saw it pop up on the website. It asked me for my email to earn
we
points.
have a
Letter.
newsletter.
Is there any way I could get you to just,
Do an app.
well, just use the mic? I mean, really anything as it relates to the mic. Luke. Yeah. But I want to hear you, and I can't hear you unless you talk into the mic.
Okay.
So, all right, we got a restaurant with no app, but a reward system.
Newsletter.
So he asks the question, he doesn't even let me answer. That's the problem here.
That
I
is
think
the
that's the issue here.
This is the small business owner, like the
Okay.
accountability thing. We're just
So,
going to.
2-hour wait list.
Mm-hmm.
There are tables outside that you can use. You can't make your own pancakes outside. You can make your own pancakes in every table inside.
Yeah.
Not outside because of California, although you claim to have an answer. And if you do, I'll definitely welcome that.
We have to speak Korean, but yeah.
And yet, people will wait the 2 hours to sit inside and sometimes not make pancakes. Why does that happen?
And they
I
just
don't
order
understand.
chilaquiles or the order Benedicts.
Most people don't. I would say probably 80% of the tables will have a pancake batter, but they'll have a dish that they order, and sometimes they'll have like pancakes for dessert.
Okay, so is that
But the other 20%.
I used to surf a lot, right? And I remember like when I first started surfing, they would say, "All right, when you paddle out, right? Don't paddle out when the wave is crashing in your face." I feel like God's telling you something. He's saying that only 20% of the people are making pancakes at the table.
No.
No?
80% are making pancakes.
Okay.
20% are not making pancakes.
Okay. So do you have
But out of that 80%, most people are also ordering a dish from inside the kitchen.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Yes.
You have seating at the restaurant, and I don't mean to dwell on this, but is there seating at the restaurant that doesn't have a griddle?
Only the bar.
Okay, gotcha. So
Okay.
when you are checking people in, do you ask them questions like, do you want a griddle? Do you not want a griddle? Like, do you ask them those questions?
Obviously, we do.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
People might come in without even knowing you can make pancakes at the table.
But then they get FOMO.
So they get FOMO. That's
right?
exactly it. So
They
they'll
see
be like
the table next to them.
It's a 2-hour wait list unless you want to sit outside. So
Right.
they'll be, I'll sit outside. The only thing is you don't have a griddle. Yeah. What do you mean? You can't make your own pancakes outside. What does that mean? Oh, besides the menu, you can also make your own pancakes. Well, wait the 2 hours. Sometimes they'll wait the 2 hours and they still won't order.
And then when they're out there waiting for
I
2
don't
hours.
understand it.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm dumb. Help me understand something. I'm so locked in right now. Lev, I don't know if do you have a mic? You don't have a mic. We don't have the budget for a mic, apparently. Am I Davis Clark? I'm so locked in right now. I'm super locked in. You got people waiting, captive audience for 2 hours. What are you selling them?
We're selling them nothing.
So that we're clear. We're not selling perfumes, cables, grabadoras, anything like that.
We're selling them to walk around North Park. That's what we're selling.
Interesting. And do you guys sell, like, do you have like a coffee cart or anything outside? Are you serving them?
not.
Okay. Like, I'm Middle Eastern, right? So like, when people come to my tent, right? When people come into my house, I always thought this was weird because you did go to Miami to your own family's house and they didn't offer you anything. But when people come into my tent, I'm offering them something. I'm offering them tea. I'm offering them dates. I'm offering them something to eat. If I owned a restaurant and I had a captive audience for 2 hours that's standing outside You know, like waiting. Dean, finish my sentence. What are we doing?
I think by this point, we've all learned that as a small business owner, if you're looking at the restaurant industry as a potential industry and you have not tried this before, this is a very difficult place to park your car. It's a very bad neighborhood, and that you should avoid it at all costs and think about doing something else. When you've watched for 20 minutes, these two go back and forth about the merits of running a specialized breakfast restaurant and the myriad ways you have to supplement your income inside this restaurant just to break even or make ends meet. And I think that's really the lesson being taught here, is that food service is very, very difficult.
Okay. Can I piggyback off of that?
Sure.
All right. This is like Mexican wrestling. He just tagged me. I'm going to come in. I still have my mask on, but
Which one are you?
He's tagged me.
Santo.
El Santo. So I'm going to, you tagged me. You already hit him. I'm going to hit him with the suplex, throw him out of the ring. Because you haven't answered my question. Yeah. No, I just
Let me answer your question.
I'm serious. I want to know this.
Okay. Before you even, you were first to tell me, do you have Yelp waitlist?
Yeah.
Have you used Yelp waitlist?
Yeah. Do you pay for it? Okay. It'll be interesting. And
Okay.
I've always wanted to know what you have to pay Yelp, because Yelp is like a union.
No, we
Right?
do.
They
pay.
want.
No,
they
we
want
do pay
okay.
Yelp, but it's not a big amount. But okay,
And so-
you've used Yelp waitlist.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask a question.
You are aware you don't have to be at the location when you use Yelp waitlist.
I do it personally. I do it when I'm leaving the house.
So you do understand that then you don't have people for 2 hours outside, right? Because only someone would go there and do it there and
Okay.
stand there for
This
2
guy's
hours.
trying to hit me with the technicalities.
But that's not a
saying-
technicality. That's part of the big thing about using Yelp waitlist,
Okay.
right?
Okay. All right. Let's get back to this, because you
Josh
said
just committed suicide.
You said
I know it's tough, right? I
I just want to know do I have to wait in this 2 hour line if I go? Because that's probably why you haven't gone.
Why don't you do that on Yelp waitlist?
Okay.
And when it
Can
says
I
you're
just text
20 minutes
you?
away, you just go there.
Okay. I'm going to encourage one person to talk at once, right?
Oh, that's not fun.
That's not fun. But in all seriousness, you said to me, and I could play back the tape. Sound bites aren't sworn testimony, but I feel like I gotcha. You said, I've got them for 2 hours and they're going to walk around North Park. For me, as a business owner or as an enterprising investor, right? Dean's other half, right? I'm not Dean's yes man. When Dean says no, I say no. If I've got them for 2 hours, I don't want them walking around North Park spending their money. I want them at my location spending their money. So I'm just asking you, like, I use the example when people come into my house, I offer them fruit, I offer them, nuts, I offer them coffee. No, but I'm serious, right? Dean, this is like a basic thing. You've got people for 2 hours. Why not sell them something? I don't want to sell them something that necessarily will fill their stomach, because that means that they're going to waste, or that's a wasted opportunity in the restaurant.
We're definitely working there.
But I would sell them coffee. I would sell them coffee because, one, right, it makes them full, and then they pee it out, right? And then they go more, they're going to get hungry. Or I'd sell them something that's going to spike their blood sugar, that'll make them eat more. Or I'd give it to them for free. Like, as you know, at restaurants, specifically like Italian restaurants, when you go there, they give you a bread basket. Conventional wisdom would say, well, don't eat the bread, because then you're going to fill up and then you won't order anything off the menu. That would be wrong, because if you wear a glucose monitor, as you eat the bread, your glucose spikes, right? And then insulin is going to get released in order to lower your glucose levels. But what ends up happening is, once you eat that bread and your glucose spikes, you're super hungry and you'll just order everything off the menu. So it's very important as a waiter, right? Or as an owner of a restaurant, to train the waiters, right? Not only in fluency in the menu, right? But what are the high margin items? What are the specialties? What stuff do we have in the kitchen that's close to expiring that we need to get out the door quickly, right? And get them to order. All right. Like, for example, like, do you guys have appetizers? Yeah. Huge missed opportunity for breakfast restaurants. They always want to get people immediately into the main courses. When you go to breakfast restaurants, they're never, ever recommending an appetizer, right? I would say you've worked so hard marketing to get the people into those seats, right? Let's throw it all after, drinks, specialty drinks, alcohol drinks, then move to appetizers, right? Unless you're just trying to turn the tables.
So there's two things to that. One, you definitely want to turn the tables. The second is people are really price sensitive for breakfast. So if you do appetizers and you come out with a check of whatever, $40, $35 per person, you're going to leave a horrible ass review saying, I could have gone to any of these locations and gotten away with a $20 check or a $25 check. That's one.
So why don't breakfast restaurants
The
have
other problem
appetizers?
is, because if you would do appetizers plus that, I'm obviously expanding the money you're spending more money at my restaurant, but you're going to be pissed off that you're spending that much in breakfast, on breakfast. The other thing is, breakfast concepts here, they're usually huge plates. People seem to complain if you don't tell them it's a huge plate if they order something else, but they also complain if it's not a huge plate. So I don't really understand. People complain a lot.
Okay. All right, I don't think you answered any of my questions. But yeah, well,
Listen, what we know is that
You
he's
should open
smart
an
enough.
appetizer. You should do a breakfast with appetizers.
You guys need to partner. We need to have an Ilan Stern.
I think it would be interesting for him to test. I like working with business owners that are coachable. Just like,
All right, so moving on.
this is the most, and this is going to be a good clip, I think. But I think in coaching and investing in businesses, I like when business owners, small, medium-sized, large, enterprising, when I sit down at the table with them and I look at their concept and I poke holes in the logic. I like when they listen twice as much as they talk. I like when they are hearing what I'm saying and they're listening for understanding, right? Dean has this great phrase, right? Which is, what's the opposite of?
Opposite of listening is not talking, but it's waiting to talk.
Yeah. And I think that is a very special way, at least in my opinion, that's the best way I could paint using the brush of 20 years of experience in working with small business owners, which is like, they're not participatory in a logical argument, right? A polemic. Instead, they're just waiting to win. And I think once small business owners can start to accept and embrace advice from someone who's built, right, and scaled companies for the last 20 years, that's when the introspectiveness, right, starts to change not only their being, but their interpersonal skills as it relates to working with employees, they're working with their wives, working with investors and their partners, you with your family. I'm going to give you an idea, and as opposed to, and this is not an attack, so don't feel that way, but I'm going to give you an idea, and as opposed to trying to shoot it down immediately as if I'm some bogey on your radar, see me rather as an ally, right? That's trying to add value within your organization. I say to you, you've got people at your restaurant waiting for an hour, 2 hours, right? Give them something to spike their blood sugar so that they order more at the table. Your immediate answer is, well, I'm trying to turn the tables. I say to you, like, okay, do you have little forms and stuff so they can make cute characters? And then they make them, and then can you sell them those characters as take home? No, we don't do that. Okay. What about the batter?
We don't have cute forms to make their...
They sell them. I've seen them, right? I've seen little silicone things. And
I see, but we don't have those.
yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying you could, right? Like you could.
Right. Sure.
You could sell utensils. You could sell the batter. There's all these things you could do to sell these high margin items that wouldn't necessarily compete with any item on the menu, right? But instead would just augment to a larger and larger check, which in turn, I think, and I'm kind of closing the loop on this, creates a larger bill that the patrons would then tip on, which would then contribute obviously to a larger tip for the waiter. So I think, the point that I'm trying to make with small business owners is that it's the lens you look through, right? And it's a tired lens because you're working in the business. And I'm just encouraging small business owners out there, right? Be it Ilan or otherwise, right? And this is like a favorite phrase of mine, which is what you pay attention to determines what you miss. I've never been to your restaurant. I know nothing about it, but I think coming in as an outsider, right? I'm seeing these opportunities, right? Serve them coffee, right? You said like they're going to go walk around North Park for an hour or something. I'm trying to, like anything else in life, I'm trying to monetize those eyeballs, right? I want to make money off of them. It's cost so much to market a business, right? To get butts in seats, right? So I'm trying to think, how can I recoup all those costs? What can I sell them? Do you guys sell aprons and stuff like that?
We do.
Okay. All right. And how do those sell well?
Not really.
Okay. Do your waiters wear the same gear?
They wear the same T-shirts for sure.
And how about the aprons and stuff like that?
Most people buy the T-shirts, but still they don't sell a lot. We sell more spatulas than anything else, actually.
You do sell spatulas.
We do sell spatulas, and we do a charity event in which we sell spatulas.
Do you ever do any giveaways? So it's like everyone who's checking in, they're putting their name on the list, then they sit down, and then midway through breakfast, right? Maybe every 30 minutes or something, there's some sort of giveaway, and you're creating this buzz in the restaurant.
So we haven't done that. We did one with social media,
okay,
in which everybody would put their.
Can I tell you why I'm asking this question?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm asking this question because I'm thinking, right, again, not with blinders on working in the business. I'm thinking about it in terms of how I can affect your business from the outside looking in. And I'm thinking of your business, right? As I said to you, right? What can I sell, right? And I've told you like tchotchkes and stuff like that. We've talked about dry goods. We've talked about breads and all that kind of stuff. We've talked about appetizers, but you poo-pooed that idea. I still think you borrow examples from other industries or other food service concepts and you bring it into the business to test. The giveaway idea I like, and maybe I'm stupid, but when we were younger and we would go to clubs, specifically like in downtown San Diego or in Las Vegas, Miami, that type of thing, and maybe you remember this too, right? Everybody's got a table and they've got pretty girls at the table. You know where I'm going with this? And then you get a bottle, right? The bottle girl delivers the bottles. But for the special tables, they've got the sparklers and they've got a girl that they're bringing in and she's on the shoulders of a bodyguard or something. And it's like, oh, it's his birthday or something like that. It creates FOMO, right? Why do they get that, but our table doesn't get that? So for me, if I own a restaurant, I want to create competition with the staff in terms of who gets what hours, right? Sorry, you've only been here this long. You haven't earned more hours, right? Once you reach this level, I want to create competition among patrons. I want the bronze, silver, gold, platinum level where they don't have to use Yelp check-in. Once you've achieved this level, right? You just text a number, right? A telegram, whatever the case may be. And then they're able to secure a table, right? And it creates FOMO with other patrons. And then the giveaways and all that kind of stuff, right? I want like in Mexico, we'd go on vacation and like on the dance floor, you'd have a guy with a whistle and a bottle of Cuervo and they're coming up to a pretty girl and they're pulling her hair back and they're dumping the tequila down her throat, right? All of that creates FOMO and competition, right? I'm just thinking about it from that perspective. How do you do that in a restaurant concept, in a breakfast concept? So in any event, you don't have to respond to that. It's just sort of, it's just things, takeaways, things to think about.
We've been given our 5-minute warning.
Yeah. We do need to wrap up. But we've talked about the breakfast concept, which is Flap Your Jacks. Is it flapyourjacks.com?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And on social media, is it just at Flap Your Jacks?
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you guys post a lot to social media? Okay, awesome. A lot of video content?
Very sad what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I don't follow social media at all.
Okay.
So I
And
have
what about UGC?
No clue.
What about UGC? Do you have a lot of user generated content?
We do.
Okay, so people are going there, they're tagging the restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, awesome. And do you ever do like competitions with like who can create the cutest thing on their griddle or anything
So
like that?
that's what we did with social media a couple of times.
Yeah.
People would have to do, and depending on how many followers they got a gift card for X amount.
I love it. Okay, awesome. And that's an integral part of running a business, right? You can't deny that social media for a small business, right?
They're good.
Yeah? You checked them out?
Just checked them, yeah.
Okay.
No, and in TikTok we've gotten some people tagging us with over 1 million views, and they've done like really well, and those bring people in. Part of the issue, I think, and if you can instruct me otherwise, I'd be happy to know.
Yeah.
For influencers, for example, influencers obviously nowadays make a huge part of marketing.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
How is it that I can actually tap into that when it's a location based?
Yeah, I think you have to go. I
right?
think what you need to do, right? I'm hearing you, right? You want to tap into the influencer community, right? To help promote the restaurant.
But the influencer community in San Diego, right? Because if it's somebody who's huge, but it's in, I don't know, New York, sure, there'll be some San Diegans looking into it,
Yeah.
but not enough, right?
Well, there are local influencers that go around and try other restaurants.
So we've tried.
In Orange County, there's Grub with Greg. I know there's a
San
few.
Diego's got a few.
Yeah,
We've tried a few of those, but they're much smaller, right?
well, San Diego's a sort of bedroom community, right? So it's hard. So if I have a limited budget and I want to reach a lot of influencers in San Diego, right? I would probably do the spray and pray method, or I just hire an agency, and the agency will be tapped into who, right, the largest influencers are, and you just kind of like let them do their thing. In small business, there's definitely this dichotomy, right? There's this dichotomy in thought of buy versus build. And as someone who's built a large company over the last 20 years, I can tell you, there is no honor in building. Just buy, right? Find an agency, pay them 10 grand. That'll be the budget for the quarter, and see what they can do with that budget, right? If after 90 days you realize it hasn't brought any value, then you've learned a lesson. But I think it's the buy versus build. Don't waste your time as a restaurateur trying to go on TikTok and Instagram and look up who the biggest names are, and then reach out to them.
The one we did was exactly through an agency, but again, without knowing, how do I know if that agency? How do I know? Like me not being a social media dude, right?
Yeah.
And I hire Dean. Let's assume he's an agency, and he hires these people from TikTok.
Yeah.
I can come out of that thinking, well, TikTok doesn't work.
Yeah.
But it might have been that Dean doesn't have the right people, right?
Let me put a bow on it
Yes.
for you so we can wrap this episode. So if a small business owner is asking Ilan's question, which is, I don't want to build, I just want to buy. How do I find the right agency? Right? I think the answer is, right, trade your, I want to say this right, trade your time for money. Is that, Dean, is that the phrase? Right? You want to hire someone to do it for you. Don't waste your time. Time is something you can give and never get back. So with regard to hiring the right agency, I would say your network is your net worth. Your network is your net worth. Ask other business owners in your industry or outside your industry who they've used, what their success has been, what the story was, if they were happy with it, if they would recommend, right? Don't try to recreate the wheel. Go to Mikey G with RMD and say, who do you use? Who do you recommend? Let's put a bow on this. Ilan, thank you so much for being here. You can find his restaurant, which is, you want to plug?
Flap Your Jacks.
Flap Your Jacks, right? You
It's
also
in
own a
North
bunch
Park.
in North Park, right? In San Diego. You also own a bunch of Jersey Mikes. We didn't have time to get into it. But I think there could be a part 2 here, because I'm anxious to hear if you've implemented anything that I've sort of recommended. So we'll put a bow on it. Thank you guys very much. And thank you to our very special guest, Asa Wilkin.
Thank
We're
you,
out of here,
Asa.
guys. Bye, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.